So, welcome to the commentary on The Plague Doctor. For those who don't know, I'm Stephen Bryce. I'm basically the guy behind song Snafu, and I got the rare chance to indulge in my other love on this video by directing it. This was definitely kind of uh, a Halloween treat to the song Snafu fans from the Bryce family, because this is something that was inspired by my son getting a Plague Doctor Halloween costume. Believe it or not, his idea, and how it came about was I was just relaxing on the couch, similar to this, though not sick, and he crept out of his bedroom wearing this costume, trying it on for the first time. There's something about it, even though I knew what the costume looked like beforehand, it was kind of eerie. I certainly like the image of it. How can't you? And that just got the gears turning in my head that it would be kind of cool to do some kind of video shoot with my son in costume for Halloween. But I'm not like a fashion photographer or anything like that, so my impulse turned more to filmmaking. And that is sort of how the idea of this black and white old style horror movie look came about. My first thought was that it should be sort of like a pastiche of things like Nosferatu or the Lon Chaney Phantom of the Opera. But when discussing it with my son, he was interested in the idea, but we couldn't really think of a plot that would make that work. He was actually very protective of the fact that real life plague doctors were not bad guys. If anything, they could sometimes be charlatans, but they were not a menace exactly. For those who don't know, plague doctors were a real thing during the bubonic plague. They tended to people who were in the last stages of the illness and therefore about to die. So where the creepiness around them tended to come about, aside from just the bizarre appearance of the costume, sort of the outfit, which is actually closer to being like an early hazmat suit in context, was simply the fact that the people they tend to see died. So, especially in superstitious times, people tend to assume that the plague doctors were killing people. But anyway, once it gravitated towards a video for a song, which was the other thing that was kind of in the back of my mind when seeing the costume. My son was much more on board with that because it would be a lot looser in terms of the story. And sort of the general idea was that the character that I'm playing is dying from some illness, and basically what we are seeing is him going kind of crazy, and the appearance of the plague doctor himself not really helping matters from his point of view. I'm obviously very protective about my son's identity in this, which is why I'm trying not to identify him. But it is worth knowing that he's a very, very bright 8-year-old at the time that this video was shot, and even though he had never really acted before, and kind of shown like a grudging interest in the previous filmmaking that I had done, he was actually very keen on doing this and was surprisingly easy to direct. I just guided him through a few general moves and gestures I wanted him to make. Pretty much the only thing I needed to coach him on was just the kind of walk that he should do, because he wanted to do something a little bit more animated at first, whereas I explained to him that something more still and somber would be appropriate for something like this. He was extraordinarily patient with how technical a lot of the acting on this was. And it helped a lot that shooting this digitally, I could just play back to him what we had shot so that he could see what he was doing and what I had in mind. As far as the look of the movie is concerned, the video, it's pretty straightforward. I shot it color 4K, of course, but I turned it to the noir setting on my iPhone, so it's not only in black and white, but it has this high contrast to begin with, like old film. And then using pick effects, I blew out the exposure and contrast even further, and add the kind of ring effect, like this dark shadow ring around the frame for everything. So it really looks like like an older horror movie. And there's a lot of trick photography in terms of just playing around with the exposure settings on the phone, like a lot of high speed shots, like slow mo that I would then play around with in various ways in the editing program. And that swirling thing that you saw a minute ago was basically a time lapse walking through a forest near our house, but I was turning the camera the entire time that the time lapse was going, just sort of trying something because I was kind of running out of insert shot ideas as I was putting this together. So it's just trying any kind of weird angle, like this thing, for instance. This is just I don't remember if I shot it walking backwards or forwards or if I did both, but I was just doing this weird walk around the couch in the living room at one point, just trying things. And the shot of the plague doctor covering up the sheet is another good example. Getting the sheet to stay on the hook, getting it to stay on the cane was surprisingly easy, but the catch was that my son couldn't get it to stay on there moving below a certain speed. So to make sure that we weren't locked into a certain timing, what I thought would be a good idea was to just shoot that on the slow-mo mode on the camera, and if need be, just adjust it in the editing to a pace that I wanted. And by the way, there's something I really cannot gush enough about with these filters is just how the stuffies in particular look like an old film. It's freaky. Okay, I'm out of time. Thank you for joining me. Happy Halloween.